ensure that Canadians are getting the support they need during these challenging times. No matter who you are, where you live, or what you do, COVID-19 is having a real impact on your life. Small businesses are temporarily closing up shop. Hotels and restaurants can no longer accept guests. Some people are not getting paid. Others are worried about their job. Whatever your situation may be, our government is here to help. Passing this bill today means getting you the support you deserve as soon as possible. When you're trying to help get money out to people, speed is of the essence, especially in an unprecedented situation like this one. But I want to make it very clear. I believe in our democratic institutions. All of us in Parliament must work together, and Canadians need to see us doing just that. So you have my unwavering commitment. We will protect and uphold our democratic values. We will protect and uphold our democratic institutions as we deliver support to Canadians as quickly as possible. Aujourd'hui, la Chambre des communes sera rappelée pour annoncer.
Today, the House of Commons will be called back to adopt emergency measures announced by our government. This is a very important step to provide Canadians the support that they deserve. I know that people have many questions, and as I've been saying since the beginning, all orders of government are working tirelessly day and night to provide answers. Federal assistance announced last week for workers and businesses is on the way. We're continuing to think of different ways that we can help Canadians. What we've announced up until now is a starting point, but work is ongoing. Ever since the beginning, science and experts have been guiding our approach and our response to this crisis. Scientists and experts have to continue to guide us through what's ahead. As the situation evolves, we're learning what we can do better, and we're adjusting. We will have more information and more support announced for Canadians in the days to come. In the meantime, know that the entire public service is working day and night to support you. I would like to thank all the civil servants, not just federally, but provincially, in the territories and municipally, for all their work.
A lot of Canadians abroad are still having trouble finding a flight to bring them home, so I want to give everyone an update. At least one more flight from Morocco has been scheduled. The first flight from Peru will leave today, and we're working on flights from Panama, Tunisia, Ukraine, in addition to the flights we've already announced from Ecuador, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Spain. On that note, I want to thank the flight attendants, pilots, border agents, and airport staff who've all played a crucial role in bringing Canadians home. They've been on the front lines of this crisis for weeks, but they continue to show up to work and bring families together. Just this past week, nearly 1 million Canadians traveled home to Canada. This would not have been possible without the people who work at our airports, at the border, and at our ports. So on behalf of all Canadians, thank you. We see how hard you're working, and we deeply appreciate it. Every day, someone asks me how long these restrictions will be in place, and the truth is, we don't know yet. But here's what we do know. The duration of this crisis will be determined by the choices we make right now, by decisions we take every single day. So if you want things to get back to normal, do your part. Stay home. And if you've just returned from abroad, go straight home from the airport and do not leave for at least 14 days. This is not a suggestion. You cannot pick up groceries or visit your parents or your friends. You need to go home and stay there. If people do not follow these guidelines, we will put much more stringent measures in place. Since the beginning, I have been in constant communication with the First Ministers. We had another call last night, and we agreed that we have to keep collaborating to ensure that all regions have what they need, including testing equipment and medical supplies. We discussed the range of challenges being faced and overcome across the country. We talked about working even more closely together to do more to keep Canadians safe. We also talked about the emergency measures that have been put in place at the provincial and territorial level. The Federal Emergencies Act is a last resort, but as I keep saying, all options are on the table. If people do not comply with expert advice and government guidelines, we will have to take additional steps. Right now, there are people who are still going to work because they have to. Pharmacists, delivery folks, postal workers, custodial staff, truck drivers, and many, many more are keeping the country running. They deserve our thanks for everything they do. But these people are more than just their job. They're somebody's mom or granddad, somebody's best friend or favorite colleague. So please, for them, stay home. And do it for the healthcare workers who we can't afford to lose during the biggest public health crisis our country has ever seen. Because here's the hard truth. If our nurses and doctors have COVID-19, they can't help you. They won't be able to treat you or your loved ones if you get sick. This is serious. The decisions you make have serious consequences, not just on your community, but on the entire country. So do your part. That's how we will keep each other safe. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Je suis maintenant heureux de prendre vos questions.
Thank you all.
Janet Silver, Global News. Prime Minister, you just talked about the need of getting money out the door as quickly as possible. Critics say this still involves a lot of paperwork. So why not send or give every tax filer a check right now? And to that end, last week alone, we had nearly 1 million people, extra people, filing for unemployment insurance. Processing times can be slow. How quickly can they expect their checks as well?
We recognize the need to help Canadians directly and quickly. People are worried about affording their groceries, they're worried about paying their rent, they're worried about how they're going to stay safe and keep their families safe when they don't have revenue coming in. That's why we've put forward measures that will get money out to them quickly. We recognize that the demand is massive across the country, and we are working very, very hard to be able to flow money to people very rapidly. But as I've said, nothing is off the table. We are looking at a broad range of measures for supporting vulnerable people, for supporting businesses, small businesses specifically, and giving more help to Canadians, and we will continue to work and roll out those measures as we move forward. Nous reconnaissons que les gens sont inquiets.
We recognize that people are concerned. They're concerned as to how they're going to pay for groceries, for their rent, how they're going to be able to care for their families during these difficult times, especially if their revenue is limited or they don't get a paycheck. This is why we have implemented measures so that this money can be sent out to Canadians rapidly, can be sent out to all those in need. We understand that it's a huge challenge for the government to send out this amount of money to so many people, but this has to be done. It has to be done quickly, and the measures that will be passed this afternoon will help us to help Canadians.
CTV National News. We're hearing that some doctors and nurses are waiting more than a week to get test results. That obviously skews numbers as to how big of a problem this is, and more importantly, it limits the ability to trace who an infected person came into contact with. So why didn't your government enhance lab capabilities earlier to prevent backlogs here?
We have been enhancing lab capabilities. We've been increasing testing by tens of thousands of numbers every single day. But we know that there are also backlogs and challenges, particularly in more remote or more overburdened jurisdictions, to get those test results back quickly. We discussed it with the premiers last night, actually, as well. We are moving to accelerate the processes because testing is not just about giving people peace of mind. It's an essential element for the public health response that will keep us all safe. We know that massive testing has been part of the solution in places that have managed to contain or slow the spread of COVID-19. That is why we are investing significantly in increasing both our testing capacity and the speed with which we will be able to respond. Nous reconnaissons qu'il y a des défis.
We recognize that there are challenges with regards to test results. We know that specifically in more isolated areas or busier areas, it can take a bit of time to receive results, and we discussed this with the premiers last night. This is why we've implemented concrete measures to speed up the process to obtain results more quickly and for a greater amount of people. Each and every day we test tens of thousands of people more. We have to continue doing more, especially with regards to returning test results. To test someone, it's not enough to have the information to be reassured or that will change our behavior. It's an essential measure to control the transmission of the virus. We saw this in other countries in the world. We will continue to speed up our efforts to have a greater number of tests for everyone as quickly as possible.
Why would your government think it's a good idea to propose a bill to broadly tax and spend without parliamentary approval until December 2021? Many opposition members say they can't support this overreach. Why would you bring politics into a pandemic?
We recognize that this pandemic is moving extremely quickly, and it is an exceptional situation that requires extreme flexibility and rapidity of response by governments to be able to help Canadians and react to a situation that we've seen is moving quickly every single day. So saying, we have a parliament that works, we have an opposition that is doing its job of making sure that we're taking the right steps the right way, and that's why we've been working on drafting the right legislation up until the last minute. We've been in close discussion with the opposition parties to find a way to both get that flexibility to be able to get measures out the door and keep in place our democratic institutions and the values that are so important to us all. We will always ensure that our system works in a robust way, both around accountability and helping Canadians as quickly as is necessary in these exceptional circumstances. And that's exactly what we're going to see this afternoon in what I'm sure will be robust but extremely cooperative and collaborative debate this afternoon in the House.
We recognize that the situation that we find ourselves in is without any precedent. Circumstances are evolving quickly. We need flexible and fluid responses from government. Because of this, we also understand that Parliament and the opposition parties have an essential role to play. We have to ensure oversight. We have to be aware of the measures that are being implemented. We need our democracy to function properly, even in extreme situations. That is why the discussions that we've had with the opposition parties were ongoing up until the last minute. That is why we made certain choices to allow Parliament to resume so that we could have the flexibility that is required. This is a democratic system that works, and we will continue to defend our values and our institutions. Christian Noel, Radio-Canada. Is there a use of the telecom company data to do surveillance of those who should be isolated? Are you doing this? And would it be worth violating people's privacy rights in this type of situation? Answer: we realize that we are in a situation where the behaviors and the choices that we need to make as a government will be different than what we would do in a normal situation, normal times. But we are not, to my knowledge, implementing these types of measures. All the options are on the table, as I've already said, but this is not something that we're doing at this point in time, and it's not something that I think that we're contemplating for the days to come.
Recognize that in an emergency situation, we need to take certain steps that wouldn't be taken in non-emergency situations. But as far as I know, that is not a situation we're looking at right now. But as I've said, all options are on the table to do what is necessary to keep Canadians safe in these exceptional times.
Good morning, Prime Minister. Dylan Robertson, Winnipeg Free Press. how many premiers asked you to invoke the Emergencies Act, and what is your tipping point to enact it?
We had a good discussion on the Federal Emergencies Act, recognizing that most provinces and territories, if not all, have brought in their own Emergencies Act to be able to deal with this situation. The Federal Emergencies Act is really a step above that would involve powers of coordination, of rearranging logistical supply chains to cover challenges in various parts of the country. It is not something that the premiers largely thought was necessary at this point. Most of them indicated that if it became necessary, they would of course support it, but they didn't feel it was there yet. I impressed upon them the need to further coordinate and provide data on things like how many ventilators they have, so that we can make sure that they are going to the areas, maybe not in their province, but next door, that need them the most, and ensure a better level of flow of emergency equipment to the places that need it. But as long as we are doing that in a robust way, there probably isn't yet a need for the Emergencies Act. But as we know, things are changing very, very rapidly. Some premiers were more open to it than others, but all of them indicated an openness to continue the discussions to make sure that we're able, as individual jurisdictions, but also as a country, to do everything necessary to keep Canadians safe. Nous avons eu une bonne discussion hier soir avec les premiers.
We had a fulsome discussion last night with the premiers on the Federal Emergencies Act. All the premiers indicated that if we arrived to the point where we needed to invoke the Federal Act, the Federal Emergencies Act, they would, of course, support this. They did not feel that we were at that time yet. We will continue to cooperate and to take the measures necessary to respond to Canadians' needs, and we committed ourselves to working together to have necessary tools to protect Canadians. Thank you. On the line, moderator.
First question is from Teresa Wright from the Canadian Press. Please go ahead. Your line is now open.
Good morning, Prime Minister. I'm wondering if you can tell me if you're worried about signs that the U.S. is keen to move away from COVID restrictions in the name of trying to help jumpstart the economy, and how such a move would impact the Canada-U.S. border agreement.
Obviously, the agreement we have with the United States is limiting all non-essential travel for tourism, for recreational purposes. We recognize the deeply integrated supply chains that go back and forth across the United States, and we'll continue to ensure that essential supplies of medication, of industrial equipment, of food continue to flow. At the same time, we are continuing in Canada to base our decisions and our recommendations and guidelines to Canadians on science. We recognize that the need for social distancing, which means keeping 2 meters apart and not gathering in groups, is going to be in place for many more weeks. And we will ensure that we are giving the support to Canadians, to small businesses, so that as we get through this, we are able to restore the economic activity that keeps us all prosperous when it is safe to do so. Our priority is keeping Canadians alive and healthy, and that is what we will continue to focus on in Canada.
Merci. Prochaine question.
Thank you. Merci. Next question is from Steve Shear from Reuters. Please go ahead.
Hello, Prime Minister. Today, the WHO said that the United States could become an epicenter for the coronavirus. You already have border controls in place for non-essential travel, but are you prepared to do more to get tougher on the border? We've heard anecdotally that truckers, for example, are just asked, if they're healthy or not. So is the government prepared to do more on the border, and what could that be?
As I've said, we are braced for a broad range of scenarios. We have put contingency plans for next steps depending on what trajectory the virus takes in Canada or indeed around the world. We are looking at a broad range of things. Nothing is off the table, but we will respond every step of the way with the necessary actions at a given moment. At this time, we feel the measures that we have taken to restrict flow across the border to essential travel and essential goods to goods and essential travel is the important thing that we're doing to keep Canadians safe. Of course, as the situation evolves, we will be ready to shift our posture with that.
Je vous remercie beaucoup. Dernière question.
Thank you. Merci. Next question. Prochaine question. Lina Dib, La Presse canadienne. À vous la parole.
Bonjour, Monsieur Trudeau. Une question très précise.
I have a very specific question. The public service is able to manage all the EI claims. Employers and unions have many questions. So this is the question. Why are you not giving the money directly to businesses so that they can distribute assistance to employees very quickly themselves? We're going to do both things. We will send direct assistance to the workers, those who are eligible for EI or not. And then we will help businesses to keep people on their payroll and not have to lay them off. We understand that in these types of situations, there is no solution that will work for each and every case. We're going to need many different measures, different ways of providing the necessary assistance for families. We will do this in many different ways. It's not one thing or another. All the measures will be taken at once. Thank you. This is all for the press conference. Thank you, everyone.
All right, Peter Van Dusen listening along with you to Prime Minister as we show you Parliament Hill now. Where the Speaker's Parade has just entered the chamber, and that session's about to get underway. As soon as it starts, this is the